I know the Mexican team was here most of last week, and we're even closer. You know, I said on one show late last week that I just hope that Dustin Hoffman doesn't show up at the wedding. That's how close we are.
Right? You mean pounding on the glass and
Elaine,
screaming, screaming Elaine, and then everybody starts cursing at him. So something could is Canada watching, going, what happened to us? Or, like, you know, they could be there. They're not, though.
Well, I think that what's going to happen after we close the Mexico deal is that Canada's going to look at it and see some stuff they like and maybe some stuff they want to modify, but it's going to make it a lot easier to make a deal with Canada because we got to deal with Mexico.
Hey, Kevin, I'm worried about truth. What's truth and what isn't truth? But what we've seen, the articles written last week about China, it seems like it seems like they're being affected by what's happening and that they're coming to the table. Is that the truth?
Well, let's list the facts. They're definitely coming to the table. There are people coming this week. We also know that the Chinese economy isn't doing so hot and that it's not doing well, not just because of what we've been doing, but also because they had a debt overhang and they've had to recapitalize their banks and so on. And so I think that there have been a lot of bad news stories about China in the last few weeks. But for me, the good news stories is that they're coming, they're talking.
So their economy's not so hot. Ours is doing pretty well. Where are you on the current quarter? Atlanta was at 5. I think they're all over the place. But what are you hoping for? You think, is it really possible to be above 3 or 4 again? Or?
Yeah, I think above 4 is hopeful. Above 3 is pretty solid. We get some of the data already, like the retail sales and stuff, but yeah, I'd say that right now we're looking at a really strong quarter after a really strong quarter, and 2 quarters in a row of growth north of 3. I mean, that's something that's almost unprecedented in the last decade.
What would you need in the fourth to get that 3% print for the year?
Well, I guess it depends on what we get in the third, but I think that right now we're looking at a third quarter that's north of 3, and really no reason to expect that the fourth quarter will be different.
Oh, there's plenty of reason to expect. Everyone on the left is telling me the fourth quarter and the next year is going back to Larry Summers.
But here's what you say to them, Joe.
Kevin,
here's what you say.
Larry Summers is willing to wait. He's willing to wait. I mean, and just hope springs eternal that we're going to collapse.
Eventually, we will have a bad number, I admit. But the point is that we're putting all these factories online now. We're buying all those machines. And then what's going to happen is those machines are going to start producing output. And so I think that if we look forward to the next 2, 3, 4 quarters, then we've got so much capital investment that the sort of second shoe dropping of more output because we just built a factory is really the main story of the GDP.
Is housing demand weakening, or there's no supply? What do you attribute that weakness to?
Yeah. Housing is one of the weaker parts of the economy. I think that there are a lot of reasons why the cost of building a new home right now are a little bit higher, both because interest rates are higher and also because lumber's really expensive. And so I think that's a temporary thing, and that housing will pick up by the second half of the year.
We heard everybody's changing jobs because there's better opportunities. They can get more money. Now the lead story in the Journal, fewer U.S. workers are moving to pursue new job opportunities as changing family ties and more openings near home make people less willing. So this almost looks like, the first thing in an economy gets better is you might have to move, but you get a better job. Now, you would actually say this is positive, that the better jobs are near home now. So this is not to be seen as a negative. Is that it?
Well, no, there is something of a negative there. So the two things that we see in the data, number one is that people are quitting their jobs like crazy. And so that's kind of a good thing, because if you're quitting your job, then you got another job waiting. But also people are moving much less often than they used to. And so the question is, if you don't have a job because you're in Rochester and then you see all these jobs for people like you in Teaneck, then, you ought to move to Teaneck. But people aren't doing that. And so I think that our economy could be more dynamic. But right now, it's still the case that the job market indicators are suggesting that people are doing well.
Is anybody worried about the deficit, Kevin? I mean, I get that on my Twitter feed all the time. Republicans only care about the deficit when it's a Democratic president. And now they're going nuts. $1 trillion deficits as far as you get. Cutting taxes, not cutting spending. You ever going to whisper in the president's ear that maybe some spending should be cut?
Yeah, I think the academic literature is pretty clear that when the deficit is large, that's a policy opportunity, that if you reduce the deficit, then you can lead to higher economic growth. I think that the president has said that he's disappointed in the trajectory of the deficit this year. And so, yeah, I would guess that between now and the State of the Union, we're going to be doing a heck of a lot of talking about the deficit.
His base, though, is convinced we're never going to, or he's convinced his base we're never going to do anything with entitlements. And that's unsustainable. Could he ever make that transition to telling his base, here we go with, I don't know what, truth is subjective, but would he ever tell them the truth that someday entitlements need to be cut, whether it's Medicare growth or whether it's Social Security? I mean, those are facts, not alternative facts.
Right. So the president's base expects the truth from him. And the question is, at what point do you do entitlements? And, over a 20 or 30-year horizon, you have to do it. And so my guess is the conversation picks up